Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and playing Shroud of the Avatar today, and I'm going to do like a dungeon crawl for Tartarus, which is a new. I say new. It's been in a while. It's unfinished yet. I should say it's not finished yet, but it's a dungeon that it's currently got 2 levels. It's kind of the newest PvE content, I guess, that's gone into the game. And I thought I would kind of do a couple of videos. The first video will be the first level, and maybe I'll show you something on the second level, or maybe not. Yeah, maybe I will, because I'm not sure there's much to cover in the first level really. But what I did do with it is I did some old school mapping, which I haven't done for a long time. Last time I did it, I did start a video series of Dungeon Master, and I was kind of mapping that out. Yeah, so as you can see here, I've kind of done a map. It's the first level. The second level was a bit more complicated. First level was quite straightforward. It's difficult, obviously, to map games now because they're generally in 3D and the map is on, even one level of the dungeon is on different levels. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's something that I used to enjoy a long time ago, and I have enjoyed doing this. I did buy some graph paper, and I started mapping it out on the graph paper, but I just thought it just seemed much easier just to do like a spreadsheet basically. So yeah, this is it. This is the first level. You enter here. You used to enter here when you teleported in, because the only way to get into the dungeon at one point was by teleporting in, but now you can get into it from, I don't know if it's the rise or something maybe, but you enter here. You have to break through a wall. I'll go through all this with you. I don't think I'll probably visit all of the map here, but basically, yeah, there are some crafting stations dotted around, and this is the first level. It's quite small. There's a room here with some elves. There's a hole here that drops you down to sea, where there are some mechanical cats, which I'll show you. Room with elves here. Room with elves here. There's a room with some mushrooms. And there's a room with more elves. One of them's a high level fighter. He's quite high level. He does a lot of damage to me. And there's a chest in here as well. So we'll probably show you the cats, and we'll probably do this section here. This section you can't help but do, because you got to do it onto the on your way to the high elf fighter. This room here particularly has got lots of elves in, but they're quite low level for me, so they're quite easy just to burn down, essentially. Yeah, and this is the first level of the map. So let's go. I was kind of wondering if I was going to get this right, but it looks like I have got it right. So we'll move on. I think we'll just teleport in. It's generally the easiest way of doing it, and then I'll show you around the first level, and I'll show you somewhere on the second level that's quite good to farm for XP at the moment. It's quite interesting. I think I was talking about it when I did the video about upper tiers, about XP and whatnot and stuff, and there's been like an ongoing thread about upper tiers, and it's interesting when you read. There seems to be some people in the game, and I have to say that, with the greatest respect to them, it seems to be always the same people. So, and it always seems to be the same people who are spend a lot of time on the forums. They're the people who turn up at all the streams. The devs know who they are, etc., etc. And these seem to be the people who they're caught in some they're caught in some kind of, like, obviously Richard Garriott Starlong style, fantasy, first of all, because I don't think, if that wasn't the case, I don't think people would be so defensive unless you've either got something in it, there's something in it for you, or you're just completely obsessed with the person that's ever created or you're completely obsessed with the person that's created the film or game, or wrote the book, or whatever it is that you're. I've got a couple of different builds for here. I think I'll probably use this one first. Yeah, so we will go through. just bring up the map again quickly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the cat room, so it'll be down here, then I'll come back and we'll just go around to the... this L2 here is this little secret section for level 2, just here. But I'll come down and show you the cats, then we'll move on. I'm now just being attacked, so we'll come out of here. And I don't think I probably even need to drop a ring of fire, but I'll chuck it on this dude, dude S. Yeah, so I mean, if you go to the forum, I'm not quite sure. I'm not a trainer of thoughts like. Yeah, so if you go to the forums, pretty much in every thread where people are, people are not. I think it's got to a point now where a lot of the people who I felt were quite passionate about the game and wanted it to succeed, but were unhappy with the direction of the development, have moved on. Oh, I've got a taming collar. Essentially, those people have gone. So we come out of here. We'll go down some stairs. So when you go to the forums now, anyone discussing anything that falls outside of what this small hive mind of people who have probably invested a lot of money in the game and all that kind of stuff. Anything that falls out of what they want the game to be, generally they'll come in and be super defensive about it. And a lot of these people are the people who you kind of see in the current sort of the current. I need to be careful here because I think that these guys do teleport, but I don't know if they teleport. Yeah, clockwork attack cats, which is quite interesting. They do teleport, and I'm not sure if they backstab or not, but they can do quite a lot of damage. They seem to be doing ranged attacks here, it seems, which is a bit weird. Anyway, they don't drop much generally that I've found, apart from some mechanical parts and metal scrap. I'm sure someone will tell me that actually this stuff is quite valuable. But yeah, let's kill this. What last one at the end? There used to be a chest when the dungeon first opened, and it's another thing that really annoys me about the development of the game. Is I know when the dungeon first opened, there was a chest. I think it was here or it was somewhere. That was basically exploitable, and I think Chris Spears, who is one of the developers, and he's the one creating this dungeon. He mistakenly had teleport to friend on, so he was working on dungeon, and so I think some people teleported in when they shouldn't have done, when it wasn't ready, basically, and there was an exploitable chest that they took advantage of, but the problem is it was just left. Those people that exploited the chest because it was dropping loads of stuff and it shouldn't have been. It was just left. The stuff wasn't taken away from them. So a developer mistake where players have benefited from it, and it's just been left. So they haven't fixed it. They didn't remove the stuff from those players, it's just left. And that's the kind of thing that I do find quite frustrating with this game. There are quite a lot of things like that have happened, and I do. This game is surrounded by conspiracy theories, but sometimes you do have to wonder who benefited from it. Is it the same old crowd who, whose characters are AL 120 and they've got the biggest houses in the world and all that kind of stuff? It does make you wonder sometimes why these things are allowed to wash. But anyway, yeah, going back to the forum thing. I know you get it in any game. You get it, right? So that's life. You'll get people who are there and they take ownership and they think the game is just there for them, for their benefit, and it should be developed how they want it to be developed. And there's a lot of that goes on the forums. It's mostly just those people now, I would say. With occasionally you'll get someone who thinks a bit differently, but then it's all you're a troll or whatever. That's the sort of thing that generally goes on. It's a bit like the Twitter thing, where if you say something that someone doesn't agree with, that immediately makes you a racist or a misogynist or whatever it may be. You're an ist of some sort if you don't agree with the Twitter hate mob, hive mind. Kind of like radical left wing now, it seems to be, quite embarrassingly. As someone who Yeah, used to consider themselves left wing. Now I just feel apolitical. Really, it's all a bit of a mess everywhere you go. But anyway, enough of that stuff. Yeah, so you get these people who take ownership and they get defensive and whatnot, and it always seems to be the same people in a thread. Any thread where someone is maybe thinking outside the box, or doesn't agree with this kind of hive mind is it's generally you're a troll and whatever and whatnot. And there's been a thread where there's been quite a lot of discussion about XP gain, and people sitting in upper tiers, gaining loads of XP, etc. And this is unfair, blah blah blah. And you look at these. So this is the elf room that I was speaking of, where there's loads of elves, but they're quite low level for me, so it's not too much of a problem. Just to the left here, if you go back to the map, there's a little shroom room, where there's some mushrooms. Not quite sure why these guys are here. The dungeon's unfinished. Okay, so I mean the problem is in this game is that there are a lot of scenes that just don't seem to have anything going for them with regards to lore or story or quests, etc. And this level is unfinished at the moment, so you got to take that into consideration. So I'm hoping that at some point when the dungeon's finished, there will be some quests and there will be a point to the dungeon. It won't just be groups of mobs just stuck around whatnot. So yeah, fingers crossed that is what happens. Yeah, and it's interesting when you look at when you kind of read between the lines and you try to see as to why what these people are angry about. Now there are one or two things I can understand. I think the first thing would be that you get people, and this happens in all games. Okay, so it's difficult to get. That's interesting. Fire Hill. Oh, I can see what I've done there. I've got my two Tartarus. Fire Tart. I've got my two Tartarus decks loaded rather than the buff one. Now, yeah, I mean, I can understand certain things people getting frustrated about. So in upper tiers, you can get you get people power leveled, and you can just stand in one place basically, not move, and just soak up experience. That's not right. That needs to be changed. But the way that you change it, I think, is you don't change it by just saying, "Oh well, I've just nerfed the XP in upper tiers," because that then affects people, I guess, like myself, who went in there. Upper tiers was used as a barometer for my character level power. Yeah, and I soloed it. I did it the hard way. I didn't sit there leeching XP. So if you make, I mean, when you get to my level, the game is super grindy. So if you make it more grindy, as I said in the previous video, it's just going to put me off. That's the thing. But I think nerfing XP is a bit of a cop out. It's just the easy way of doing things, I think, isn't it? This is not the deck that I want. No, I want that one. I think slightly different. Yeah, it's nerfing XP is the easy way around it, and there are other things that they could do. You just come up with some mechanics so people can't just stand in one place. I'm sure there must be I've seen it in other games before. There must be a way of detecting if someone's standing in one place for too long. Then you nuke them, dead, one-shotted. That'll stop them. If it's that much of a concern, then stop people doing what they shouldn't be doing. Or make the scene more dynamic so people have to move around. They can't just stay in one place. But nerfing things is just the easy way out. I think it's the easy, lazy, cheap way out. And I guess that's probably what they'll do eventually. They'll nerf the experience essentially. But it's interesting, as I said, the psychology of someone who has a problem with it. The first thing I find with Shroud of the Avatar is that it isn't really. Level doesn't really make too much of a difference. It's not like other MMOs where, depending on what level you are, you might not be able to play with your friends, because they're basically higher than you. I should have my defences on here, but I'm just, trying to talk at the same time, which which is not a good idea. Yeah, it's not like other games where if a friend zooms ahead and leaves you behind, then you can't group with them anymore. You know, it's I found that you can group with people at any AL level, really. I mean, obviously they'll be going into areas where you'll die quickly, but if you're careful, you know, you can still group with your friends irrespective of what level they may be. So you got to discount that can't be the reason why people are upset, because you know, their friends are not going to go zooming off ahead of them to a point where they can't group with them, because this game, the way it's set up, just doesn't have that problem. So I guess you look for other things. You know, what is someone gaining lots and lots of XP damaging in any way to the game? Again, personally, for this game, I don't think it is. You know, I just don't. I think because of the way the game's set up, I just don't think it's. I don't think it makes any difference. You know, the amount of skills that we can gain and XP we can gain is limitless. So, someone farming upper tiers for 6 months and me not doing it, it just doesn't make any difference to me, really. I'm not fighting them. You know, if it's PvP, I can understand you may have a point, but I'm not fighting them. What I'm doing is I'm just progressing my character further along at a slower rate, basically. So then there's the chest here. So we'll go over to the chest and loot that. Oh, got an uncommon savage sash of swiftness. Nice. I'll show you my little bag of artifacts, actually. These are all the artifacts I've just picked up while I've been leveling. Unfortunately, I'm going to moan about the loot system again. A lot of these things are just not, you know, are just not really usable. You know, it's let me show you my little bag. I've got my artifact ones here as well, not in the backpack, but this is the sort of thing I've picked up over a period of time, you know, just from leveling and whatnot. And there's a lot here that you just wouldn't use. You know, it's I think the belts and the sashes generally would be usable. This ring here that I found, I think, would also be quite usable. You've got the zombie skin belts for the you know, for your death mages and stuff. Yeah, but there's so much. What I do quite like is they've added like common, uncommon, rare, I think, and legendary. So you can upgrade these, which is quite good. But it's nice to get an artifact drops, even if you're never going to use it. It's something, right? You know. Yeah. So getting back on topic, because I always sidetrack myself. Oh, hello. These guys are spawned already. We might as well take the XP again, I guess. No reason not. It'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? If you're going to run through a ring of fire, you know, you deserve everything you get, essentially. Just finish these off. Yeah, so before I got sidetracked, so when you look at it and you read between the lines of people's arguments, it's difficult not to come to the conclusion that they're just unhappy that someone is doing something that they. I mean, there was a particular person who it was weird. It didn't, and this is a common thing. It didn't seem as though he had the time to invest in his character to get it to where he wanted it to be. So he basically wanted things to be easier, which again I can understand. We've all been there, right? I'm sure we've all been there, and it's easy for me to dismiss that as someone who can play every day. But that basically sounded like, you know, that sounded what the person's problem. That sounded like what the person's problem was. And obviously you can't change a game just for that, you know. And it's always been the same in MMOs. Where if you play less than someone else, your progress is going to be slower. That's logical. I don't see how you can get away with that. But then, you know, there are situations where it does feel as though some people are just unhappy that someone is doing something. They've got the time to do it, and and they haven't, and it's I don't know if it's a jealousy thing, or, you know, they feel they're being left behind in a game where I don't really think you can be left behind. So on the map here, I'm currently here. I'm currently here, And as you can see, there's a secret door. You can just probably see the outline, and just to the right of it is where the button is to press to open the door. And this will take us down to level 2, which I'm not going to show you the map of. I will show you that map in a different video, but I'll just show you, you know, a place that I've been coming to more than upper tiers to level at. Actually, it'll be quite interesting because we can talk about this section with regards to encounters in the game in general. This is probably quite an interesting one. I think initially, when you're watching, if you haven't been here before, you might think it seems ridiculously easy, and you know, is the next upper tiers. But I think that there are some reasons why that's not the case. Yeah, so that was kind of the conclusion that it's difficult not to come to the conclusion that these people are just, you know, they're just unhappy with people doing something and making so much progress above and beyond what they're doing. Now, I'm sure not everyone feels that way. You know, if you don't feel that way, there's no need for someone to put in the comments, well, that's not what I'm angry about. You know, if you've got a point, then make the point, and then in the next video I can kind of talk about your point. If you want to do that, that's fine. But it's difficult not to come to that conclusion, I think. You know, that it's just people are just seeing something that someone else is doing and they don't like it. Also, as well, it's weird because, as I said about like people take ownership of something, you still see people on the forums who think that they know what the devs are thinking. So, oh, this is not what the devs want. When really they have got no idea what the devs want. Really, they're looking at old plans and stuff. You know, back in the old Kickstarter back in the day, and looking at those descriptions and think, well, this is not what they want. But that was like 6-7 years ago. And I mean, like Chris Spears, who created this dungeon, he does do streams. He does talk about things that they want to change and whatnot. So, you know, you can get an idea, but there are people on the forums who seem to think they know everything about what the devs want or how the game should be developed, and really, it's what they want. I think that's the upshot of it. But anyway, let's go. This is level 2. Level 2 is big, winding. My map is incredibly confusing, and I think only I can probably read it. But I'll show you that in the next. Video. So I'm just going to run to the section I want to get to show you. There is another section that I think is probably better than this for XP, but I will show you that. I didn't want that first. I'll show you that at a different point. So this floor contains a lot of zombies, petrified zombies. They've got lots of hit points. They seem to be quite a bit lower level than me, but they take a long while to kill. Yeah. This room's got wisps in, which is quite annoying because the wisps will stun you or confuse you. But Ice Field is a brilliant spell for the petrified zombies because they move slow anyway, and this basically cripples them. So if you're coming here as a mage, and I think a fire mage is probably the one best suited to this, then I recommend you get. Yeah, you try and find room for Icefield. Maybe put some experience into it, get it up a bit, because it does make things. You can do it without, but it does make things a lot easier. So I'll briefly talk about the mechanics before I get to the place where I'm trying to get to. The zombies have a mechanic where if they hit you, you lose focus. If you get 2 or 3 beating upon you, it can be quite difficult. Let's wait till my thing wears off. There we go. Yeah, if you get 2 or 3 of them beating on you, it can be difficult. You will lose focus quickly. And before I worked out exactly what I wanted to do and what I was doing, you know, I used to get down to focus quite low. There are some situations where you're walking. So there's a will-o-wisp that stunned me. So I quite like this encounter from a design point of view because the zombies will, if the zombies can hit you, they will take away your focus. And they move slow, so it's difficult for them to get to you, but it's got wisps in, and the wisps can stun you. Yeah, and make it easier for the zombies to hit you. Now, that hasn't happened here, as you can see. But as I said, I mean, like from a zombie point of view, I'm much higher level than the zombies, it seems. The wisps, we seem to be fairly close to. I seem to be very, very similar level-wise They're kind of around my level. Yeah, but I like the idea. I like the idea of the. Oh, there's a wisp there that's taken no damage. What is that all about? But I like the idea of the mechanic. I like the idea of the fact that you've got this danger of the slow-moving zombies. I love slow-moving zombies anyway. You know, George Romero is the man, obviously. None of this fast move. I do like 28 Days Later, actually, and those films, but none of this fast-running zombies, I'm afraid. So I like the fact you got this disease-ridden, like tide of zombies wandering around trying to kill you. And I like the mechanic of the fact that you got the wisps that can maybe stun you or confuse you, so that the zombies can get a hit in. So from a design point of view, I quite like it. And I guess if you're lower, if you're coming here more at the level that this encounter's probably aimed at, then yeah, then it probably works better. But because of my level above the zombies, they generally don't do as much damage as they probably normally would to me. But you still got to be careful. You know, as I said, if you get trapped and you've got 3 or 4 zombies wailing on you, then yeah, it can be problematic. Wisps seem very fire resistant. It's quite annoying. I want to say that I'm really enjoying my Corsair Scimitar Pro mouse, my MMO mouse, particularly for Shroud of the Avatar. It's made gaming much easier for me. With some of these fingers not as dexterous as they used to be. Yeah, it's much appreciated. Let's run around. So I'm going to run around to the room. So you've seen that encounter and how that works. That's quite interesting. Could be quite interesting, but is not, for me. You know, was not particularly not an issue with regards to threat of dying. Now this room here is full of the same zombies, but there are no wisps in here. So this is an interesting encounter, and potentially, obviously, it's not finished because the dungeon isn't finished. But you've got lots of slow-moving, petrified zombies. You can do this room without getting hit. Okay, so some people will say, well, you know, this encounter needs tweaking. It's not right that someone will be able to run around and not have any not have any threat or danger of dying, but I think you've got to take into account some things. You've got to take into account. I think first of all is the level range. So I'm not sure what level these zombies are aimed at, but they're green to me, so you know they are lower than me by a bit. So you've got to take that into consideration. I think the other thing as well is that how do you balance this encounter? It's difficult. You know, you've got a room full of zombies, or if they get on you, there's a lot of them, you know, so there's not much room for you to move around in. So if they get on you in some way, you're probably dead, or you're going to be running away because you've lost so much focus. So putting wisps in this room is tricky, because if the wisps stun you and this horde of zombies gets on you, you're dead essentially. And I'm not sure if there's a way of counteracting the will-o-wisp stun. Maybe there's a skill for it. I know there's some skills in Shield that help with being stunned and stuff. So maybe you need to use Act Tactic. Maybe you could do that and you use Act Tactic. That might be quite interesting. I think the other thing to take into consideration here is the fact that you need to be built in a certain way to do this. Your character needs to be built in a certain way to do this. You need to be a certain level. If you came here as a fire mage and your AL was quite low, and your attunement was quite low, this can take you ages to kill these mobs. You know, the regeneration is quite high. Even for me, at the levels that I currently am, which is not the highest by any stretch of imagination, but even the AL that I am, I think 116 here, and I've got like 200 and something fire attunement. You know, it takes a long time. So that's a consideration, I think, when you look at an encounter and you think, well, that's just too easy, that's ridiculous. You know, this guy's just running around and there's no danger in dying. There's a mechanic I forgot to mention, which I will mention in a sec. But you've got to take into account the fact that the experience spent, the time spent building the character to get to this point, the fact that you need to be quite specialised in certain skill trees. I think I'm not sure. I mean, a melee could come in here and do this, I would guess, but they certainly couldn't stand toe to toe with all of these mobs. And when you come into this room, you do get, you do get. Let's put a ring of fire down. You do get swamped by them when you come into the room. So yeah, I'm sure there are high level minions who can do this, but it's certainly more set up for a mage and probably a fire mage. So so that's the thing that I find with encounters, and judging how tough they are. Are they too easy? Are they exploitable? In this particular one, you've got to keep moving around. You can't just stay in one place. Obviously, like any encounter, really, if you've got someone in a group and you want to power level them, I'm sure they could come here and sit in a corner, and just leech XP. But that's the same. That's going to be the same in anywhere. Unless you stop people of a certain level grouping with low levels, then that's always going to be a thing. But that's the thing I think that people need to take into consideration when they're looking at encounters and calling for nerfs and stuff. Just because they can't do it, I haven't got the time to do it. Upper tiers, I can understand, needs to be more dynamic. You shouldn't have people who don't need to interact in your group. And as I said, I mean, I don't have a massive problem with it. Power leveling has always been a thing. In this game where it's set up for burning down mobs, groups of mobs quite quickly. If you're a fire mage, you're always going to get people who power level. It's the same with the same as bards in EverQuest, I guess. The game is not set up for it. I'm sure it wasn't the intention, but you're going to get it. You can't get rid of it. And I can understand, like upper tiers does need changing. It does need to be made more dynamic. I think people need to have more to think about other than just being able to stand still. I don't have a problem with it, but if you're going to change it, don't nerf the XP. Just make it more dynamic so people have to move around. With this encounter, it's interesting because you've got mobs that move slowly, but they do have quite a powerful ability if they get you. So how do you make this encounter more difficult? Or do you need to make it more difficult? As I said, my character is kind of built to do this encounter. So all the time and all the XP I've spent means that I can kind of do this encounter. So do you need to change it? It's always going to be the way. There's always going to be a build that's going to be better at doing something than someone else. And because you see a fire mage doing what I've just done, it doesn't mean that I'm overpowered or the encounter is too weak. It just means that my character has been built to do this. I didn't know it had been built to do this, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I was a fire mage before Tartarus came out. I just came here to explore Tartarus and thought, well, this seems like an interesting thing. I did nick the ice field idea from someone. I could do the encounter before without Icefield, but Icefield makes it just easier, essentially, because you keep all the mobs in one place. So that's the thing. Do you need to make it harder? Do you chuck in a wisp or two so that there's a chance you might get stunned? Maybe lower the stun chance. Maybe it just means that you need to use different skills. I'm not sure. Shield bash, dig in, pulse to balance. Yeah, maybe if you put a couple of wisps in there to stun you, the mage in question may have to use a shield just for some extra stun resistance. That might be quite interesting. I don't think that sort of thing should be done though, just because you've seen a high level fire mage clear out the room. It's I think you've got to think a bit more about the encounter and what you want from it. At the moment, it's just a room of zombies, essentially. That's all it is. But anyway, yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. I do enjoy talking about these game mechanics and stuff. It's kind of my favourite thing, I think, probably. Not just in this game, but any game, really. If you've got any comments, then please leave them, and I can always address them in the next video. The next Shroud of the Avatar videos, I do a video that's second level for Tartarus. But also, I'm kind of getting close to doing some. I'm going to be doing some taming videos for the big boys. Hopefully, I think maybe is there an obsidian destroyer bear, which seems pretty tasty, and I think there's a polar. Is there a polar bear destroyer or a polar destroyer as well, which I need to look for? So that'll be upcoming as well. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching the video. I'm not sure if what I said makes any sense. I'm not an expert. There are many people out there who know much more about the mechanics of the game than me, but it's just my opinion. Yeah, thanks for watching.